Okay, so now I'm recording and I want to apologize for having to change the time on this blab, but I have a nurse who comes out because I do have a PICC line that is going to be removed next week for a medication called Melrinone. And she was late coming to my house for me because she had a person who had horrible blood return. And then, of course, when she was trying to draw my blood, it was a horrible blood return. So that's why I'm a little bit late coming on. I wanted to be on at 12 o'clock, but it's 1. We'll be okay. So I'm going to give you guys a little background history of myself. You see my name is Natasha Pennant. I am a heart disease survivor. I developed heart disease after having my son. It was called postpartum cardiomyopathy. And back then I was only 22 years old. I didn't care too much about what the diagnosis was. The fact that it was my heart didn't bother me or anything like that. So what I did was I lived my life the way that I normally lived my life. I ate a little bit better, but not that much better. I really and truly started eating vegetables once my son was able to eat his own food, because I had to show him that it was okay to eat vegetables. That wasn't easy, but I learned to develop a taste for them. As years went by, I was getting better, and then work changed, and I was no longer working for the company that I was working for, and I didn't have health insurance for a little while, so it kind of skipped out on some things. In 2009, I had a relapse. Not a good thing. I had a relapse because of the stress at work, and that was very powerful. I had no idea that stress could be so strong, because I never really had an issue with stress before. I could always handle stress, but the stress from that job was just horrendous. So fast forward to last summer, which was 2014, and I had a horrible breakup with someone, and I was getting better, but I had a horrible breakup with somebody, and if that person would have just told me the truth and not tried to use me, my heart would have been fine, but I was trying to hold my feelings inside, and because of that, I relapsed again. Even worse than the first time in 2009, because my heart function went all the way down to 14%. My heart was enlarged once again, and it was just horrible. And then they put me on this Melrinone drip. So yeah, I was very, very close to having to get an LVAD and or a heart transplant, whichever one. However, I'm doing so much better now. And I'm going to let everybody know exactly what it is that I was doing in order to help beat this heart disease. So let me start off by telling you what number 1 was. Number 1, I drink my vegetables, the majority of them. I love a smoothie. I adore smoothies. I believe that they are what helped make me a lot better. I have my own garden in the backyard where I grow kale, spinach, Swiss chard. So that actually helps me out during the warm weather. Cool weather, I just go to the store and buy my organic greens, my organic spinach, everything like that. So I love to drink my vegetables. That helps me out so much. I believe because your body absorbs the liquid a lot better, and you don't have to do the digesting. It's already broken down. So I love my smoothies. They help me out tremendously. I don't like plain vegetable smoothies, though. I'm still kind of gearing onto that, should I say. But I like to add a banana into my smoothies for the sweetness. Sometimes I'll add dates, 1 or 2. Too many, you can't add too many dates. They're just too sweet, and it just gives you a horrible taste. So I do that. 2, what I do, exercise. I exercise. I walk. I do yoga. I do other things like my garden in the backyard. I garden. I love to garden. I love to go outside and just move my body, which is why I'm really not built for New Jersey weather. I've been here since I was 5 years old, but I need hot weather. So I can always be outside and doing something. But I always walk. I always do. I love Pilates. Pilates is something that I've loved. I grew up dancing, ballet, jazz, modern, hip hop, African. Well, kind of sort of African. I didn't take African classes, but whenever there was something going on with African choreography, we did it. So I like competitive things. I do like Zumba and things like that. However, I do know that having a defibrillator and my competitive spirit do not match. I am not about to get my heart rate that high so that I can get shocked out the class. No. That's not going to happen. So I can do Zumba at home in the privacy of my own home where I'm competing only against myself, and I can do things halfway. Not full out, but halfway. Halftime is what we used to call it when we danced. So that's definitely a big one, because your heart is a muscle. So just like your other muscles, it needs to have that workout. It needs to have that faster pump and slower pump. Now, not everybody's heart condition is the same as mine. So I know that there are some people whose arrhythmias will really just turn them out. I understand that. However, for me personally, I'm able to go ahead and push myself without having any kind of palpitations, without having any kind of heart skipping beats or anything like that. I'm actually fine for that. So exercise was very, very important. Even if you can't do something that's strenuous, even if walking is too much for you, do something in your yard. If you can walk to the end of the driveway and back, and that's an accomplishment, do that, because then you're actually building up your strength. I wouldn't say lift weights with a heart condition, because most of the time you're told not to lift anything higher than 5 pounds. Yeah. Imagine I had a baby when I got sick. My baby was born at higher than 5 pounds. Anyway, so that's number 2. Number 2 is definitely exercise. Number 3, other than drinking my veggies, I eat a lot of veggies. I try to incorporate something green, leafy green, in every single meal. I believe that the greens have a property in them that are truly healing, truly healing. So I incorporate greens. I normally cook them up with like onions and tomatoes, given my Caribbean background. My Caribbean background, we always cook everything with onions and tomatoes. I don't know what that is. It just tastes good. But I love greens. In my backyard, I have kale, I have Swiss chard, I have spinach, I have lettuce that grows. But I try to incorporate something green in everything, just because to get the vegetation in you. Meat doesn't really cut it. I do eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not vegan. However, any meat that I eat has to be organic. I cannot have conventional meat. It actually sets me back. So I do eat meat periodically. I'm not one of those, oh, you have to go vegan, you have to go vegetarian type of people, because not everybody's body is the same. And for me, having the vegetables at every meal, whether it's scrambled eggs with spinach, whether it's, a salad for lunch, with dinner, whatever. You don't have the time to cook it on the stovetop, come home, just throw them into a little Pyrex dish with some onions and some seasoning, and throw it in the oven with a little bit of water, and it'll all steam up. So that's the other thing that I do. Number 4 would actually be the way that you live. Oops, sorry. Let me turn my phone off. Number 4 would be the way that you live. Stress. Stress is a huge factor for those of us who have a heart condition. The first time I was stressed out was because of work, and the second time I was deadly stressed out was due to a breakup in a relationship. Horrible. Can I say horrible? Horrible. Because even though I was telling myself in my mind that I was over everything, it was done. My problem was I really wasn't. My body could not take that stress. It was not trying to have it. It was like, look, we're going to pump as much as we can, even though we can't pump all this blood flowing through our body. We're just going to try and pump and try and pump. And it wasn't pumping anything. 14% of my blood was being pumped through my body. It was crazy. Crazy. So I'm going to add people into the seat once I'm done talking so that if any question that you have, I'll be glad to answer. So yeah, stress is something that it really hurts people. At my job that I had, I was working for a large communications company, and they were so stressful that I witnessed people having strokes at their desk. I witnessed people who had asthma attacks at their desk, anxiety attacks, and then of course me. I was in congestive heart failure at my desk. I mean, to the point where I couldn't even chew my food because it would tire me out just to chew the food. Like, that was highly ridiculous. Nobody should have to be in a job like that. But stress is a huge factor, and I was able to combat stress by meditation. Whew, meditation was something that really, really helped me. Being able to shut out the world, shut out everybody else, and just be in a room to myself and listen, just listen to my thoughts. I was also taking yoga classes. You got to excuse outside because of the fact that somebody's doing our yard. Okay. So that was my son. He's got his own little business going on himself. Yoga was, it really, really helped. I took restorative yoga, which just had me laying there and really, I never fell asleep in the class, but I really was out of my body. And it was probably the best thing that had ever happened for me. And especially considering that I had this IV in my arm, I wasn't able to do anything strenuous. I couldn't even do, downward dog because I can't put the weight on my arm. So the restorative yoga, I took gentle yoga classes, chair yoga, they were all helpful, very, very helpful in helping me get through. And I still do take the classes because it just puts me into a different mindset and frame of mind. And when I'm done, I have like the best night of sleep. Which leads me to the next thing, sleeping. If you don't have a good night's sleep, you're putting your heart at risk. Sleeping for at least 7 to 8 hours a night is what we need to do. No, it's not easy for some of us. Some of us have insomnia. Some of us have a lot of things on our mind that we just can't get out. But that's where the meditation comes in. You meditate before bed, and you'll have a good night's sleep. It doesn't work overnight. I'm not going to say, it's magic. It's not magic, but it does seem to work. It really does. Hi, Kevin. I'm sorry. I have a issue with looking over to the right sometimes. So a good night's sleep really, really helps. I noticed that in order to get a good night's sleep, what I do is I do not drink anything at least 2 hours before bedtime, because one of the things that messes my sleep up is having to get up to go to the bathroom. So that is something that I don't do. But I do drink a lot of water throughout the day. I make sure to drink a lot of water. I just stop 2 hours before bedtime so that whatever's flowing through me can flow out before I go to bed. One more thing that I do is I do detox. I've done it before. I wasn't able to do it this time around because of the IV in my arm. However, being that it's coming out next Thursday, it's on my to-do list. So I'm going to be doing a detox that cleanses you on the intracellular level. And it helps to cleanse your blood, all of your fat cells, your intestines, helps you if you have brain fog, anything like that. And of course, it'll help your organs. It helps to replenish your organs. It wouldn't be back to their original state or anything like that. It's just the more that you detox, the better it is for your body. Think of your body like a car. Your car gets an oil change. Your car gets a tune-up. Most people's bodies don't get that. And our bodies today are not built like our grandparents and before them at all, because of the fact that we're sitting here with tons of toxic things in the air, tons of toxic food, tons of toxic everything, just everything around us. Even being online right now with my Wi-Fi, that's toxic. You can sit a plant next to a Wi-Fi router and it'll actually start to die, which is crazy. You don't think of things like that when you're using technology, but it does work in that way. So detoxing is very, very important. I normally detox at the beginning of every season, just to, change with the seasons, so that I'm not going from how I was before into the next season. I could have had all kinds of things going through me, especially in the wintertime. Wintertime, when people get sick, best time to detox, because then you're flushing all of that stuff out of your body. So one of the other things, and this is the most important thing with how I am beating my heart disease, is having my own spiritual connection with the universe. If you want to call it God, if you want to call it, Allah, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing to me. It's the greatest power in the world. It's what makes everything keep going. That spiritual connection is the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it gave me the belief. It gave me the belief that I was not going to be sick, deadly sick, for a very long time. It gives me the belief that everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. It lets me know that within myself, I have that belief system, and it's just so powerful. I can't even describe it in words. It's just like it gives you strength. And that's what I've had. I've had the strength. I've had the wherewithal. I've had everything that I needed from just believing. If I tell you this, you're not even going to believe me, because everybody says to me, your doctor said what? I was sitting in the hospital room in March when he's going to be my former congestive heart failure doctor came into the room. As soon as this comes out my arm, he's former. And he says to me while we're talking, he's talking about getting an LVAD or getting a heart transplant. And I said to him, well, I really don't want a heart transplant. And it's personally the reason why I don't want it. It's because I've seen people in my support groups get a heart transplant, and then they're no longer in our support group because they passed away. And that it's real, sadly to say, but it's really real, and it's scary. If my heart does what it wants to do, then that's my heart. But at least my body's not rejecting it. It's all of that just flows through me in a bad way. So I let him know that I did not want to have a heart transplant. I said, I'll go through everything. I'll get on the list, because if worse comes to worse and there's no other option, then okay, understandable. But right now, I know my body, and I know that being in this position is temporary. He told me that I was being selfish. That threw me through the wall, because I'm looking at this doctor like, did you really just say that to me? Like, you can't just support what it is that I'm going through, how I'm feeling, but you're going to tell me that I'm being selfish. So he told me to think about my son, which was really funny, because my son is 15 years old. My son has done the research himself. He knows, the pros and cons of having a heart transplant. And honestly, he doesn't want me to have one either. So that made me fight even more. So let me give you this other way I'm fighting heart disease. I found a doctor. His name is Dr. Dennis Goodman out of New York. He works at NYU, and he does integrative medicine. What better way to kick in with the integrative nutrition than integrative medicine? So he also checks for what you could be missing. For instance, magnesium, your magnesium levels, your vitamin D levels, all of that he checks for it. And I found out that I am low in vitamin D, and which is a good thing, because anybody normally north of Florida area in the United States basically is vitamin D deficient. Just how it goes. And those of us with more melanin actually are even worse than those without. So that's facts, unfortunately. But I have my vitamin D. He gave me vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is not like your vitamin K. So if there's a person who's on Coumadin, they can actually still take it with their doctors watching them carefully. I'm not going to tell you what to take or what not to take. Put it like that. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a health coach. Well, not just a health coach, but I am a health coach. And this is what I do, basically. So vitamin K2 is phenomenal. It is actually the bridge between calcium and I believe it's magnesium. When people have too much calcium in their blood and it blocks their arteries and everything, that's because they don't have enough K2. When people have things like gallstones and things like that, it's because there's not enough K2. It helps. The gallstones and calcification come, of course, from too much calcium. And so does the blockage in your veins. I learned this from reading Dr. Goodman's book. And the K2 actually helps to balance everything out. So it's good for people who don't have enough calcium in their bones, and it's good for people who have too much calcium in other areas of their body. It actually helps to litigate that. So vitamin K2 really, really was a good thing for me. He also gave me krill oil. I take krill oil, which is pretty good. It's one of the better ways to get omega-3s, especially if you're not eating them. And most of the time, because of the way that the food system is now, a lot of people are getting a lot of omega-6s and nowhere near as much omega-3s. So krill oil is awesome. When I say awesome, I mean awesome. One good thing I can say is since I've been ill, there was a period in time that I had very, very high blood pressure. It would not come down for anything. And I do believe that the way in which that came down was alleviating the stress as well as drinking my greens. So those are pretty much the major ways in which I'm able to fight through this. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the seat and you can jump in. Anybody have any questions or would like to say anything? Okay, well, if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut down this blab. But I do thank you all for joining me. It was really actually liberating telling my story. Everybody says I have a story to tell. I do. I believe that I do. And I do believe that everybody should learn about postpartum cardiomyopathy, because if I had known that there was such thing as developing heart disease from being pregnant, maybe there were some precautions that I could have taken. Maybe there were some tests that I could have had earlier instead of being told that it was just my pregnancy. Who knows? But yeah, it was everything that I've been through has been a trip, up and down roller coaster, and I'm just happy that I'm here. I'm very thankful, considering no one is going to know exactly what it feels like. And honestly, I'm probably one of the better cases that is a prolonged case, because there's many women who woke up from comas from having postpartum cardiomyopathy. I'm very lucky that that didn't happen to me. Some women never even got to meet their babies. So let me try not to go into a downer place. But again, thank everybody for watching. I'm going to shut down the blab. And if you have any questions or anything, you can always hit me up on my email, which is tasha@natashapennant.com. I'm going to go ahead and put it into the comments. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have for me if you don't want to ask them here. I'm sorry. So on that note, take care, everybody. God bless you all. And I will talk to you all on the next blab. Take care.